Hello everybody and welcome to round 6 of the 2022 GP4 Offline Championship. We are here at the popular Hockenheim Ring in Hockenheim, Baden-Württemberg for the German Grand Prix. I am JW97 and I'm joined today by, a German himself. It is Mr. Dennis Graf. How are you doing?
Yeah, hello, good evening everybody. I'm hoping you're all doing well. Yeah. I think with commentary it says German text.
Indeed, and you may have seen with the weather, of course, it is looking like it's going to be dry to start off with, but we are expecting rain towards the end of the session. So whether the track will wetten up by the time the 40-minute practice session comes to a close, we shall wait and see. And of course, we also have some cloud cover as well. We should also point out as well, there are 2 reserve drivers in the car for today. One of them is Robert Ionescu, once again driving the Red Bull in place of George Roque, of course a master of this track. And you would have briefly just seen his name over at Lamborghini. That one was kept a secret, and I think it's no real surprise, but 5-time world champion Florian Volker is doing reserve duties for Lamborghini today in place of Laura Chung. So that's that, and so Florian Volker will be back in a top-class session for today, an official weekend practice session for the first time since 2018, and it'll be interesting to see how he does in this practice session here at Hockenheim. And is that actually him going out first? No, it isn't. It's Rahul Patel that goes out first. It's the other Lamborghini that goes out onto the racetrack as the 40-minute session gets underway. And we might as well talk about the San Marino Grand Prix, the return of the San Marino Grand Prix that happened last week. And, it was back-to-back victories for Evan Byrne, Dennis. And he seems to be on a bit of momentum at the moment.
Yeah, he definitely found his form in the Red Bull, of course, first time Red Bull in 2006. But yeah, he is definitely a real threat for the championship. Hopefully I don't jinx that one. But anyway, his last 2 races were absolutely spot on. And yeah, he looks very strong at the moment.
Does indeed, and whether he can make it 3 wins in a row here is another question. Of course, he did win here last season when he was at Renault, so he's obviously knows how to win here, of course. So does his teammate George Roque, of course. People nicknaming him Rokenheim whenever we come here to Hockenheim, because he is a bit of a master around this racetrack. Whether he can actually get his first ever victory in a Red Bull, we shall wait and see, of course, as Patel is just starting his lap. And not only was it back-to-back wins for Evan Byrne, it was also back-to-back 1-2 finishes for Red Bull, which as a result means they are now 2 points behind Mercedes in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, after the first 2 races, it looks like Mercedes will have a not easy season, but a huge, big advantage in the beginning. But then later, yeah, we are now with the thing seeing that, as you said, only 2 points. With Red Bull had some masterful last 2 races with absolutely bang on strategy, and Mercedes, in terms of strategy, not really looking that good.
Yeah, indeed, as we're viewing Florian Volker, and I think the German fans will be very happy to see him out on the racetrack in a top-class car, and definitely getting some probably cheers going about, although I don't think there's anybody in the grandstands on this game, because that's usually a thing with practice sessions. I don't know why that is, but Grand Prix 4 for you. But anyway, let's just pretend there are fans in the crowd for the sake of it. But anyway, Patel is just going to set a benchmark of a 1 minute 12.478. It'll be interesting to see what Volker does after his lap. And, it was 3rd and 4th. Oh, hold on a minute, because Q-Puck has gone off the track at the final couple of corners there. And, he had to, he got a little bit scared off there by the Renault driver there, trying to avoid not clattering into the side there. And, that was nearly a dangerous rejoin there, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's the first time I'm seeing a F1 car going as far off the track as there, yeah. But luckily no damage is done. Yeah, but of course Q-Puck is far off with this lap.
Volker going to the top of the timing screens, 4 tenths quicker than Jake Galloway's Ferrari at this stage, a 1 minute 11.610, and in fact he's currently quicker than Lopez at this stage. So Volker currently at the top, and As Ionescu actually beats him now by exactly 5 tenths of a second, and Carr slots into second place there. But yeah, as I was saying, it was third and fourth for Mercedes, but they did get lucky with a podium, because it's safe to say that Romain Quarg probably should have had back-to-back podiums at Mazzano, but Renault with mechanical failure on both cars.
Yeah, I would actually say it's classic Renault. We know how bad their reliability is. And sadly, it's happened to both cars last time out at Misano. Yeah, they definitely have to improve their reliability, but as I said, indeed, a lucky podium for Mercedes. But could be important as the season goes on. Yeah, let's see how that goes.
Volker improves meanwhile. He's now 4 tenths behind Ionescu, so currently up in P4 is the 5-time world champion, who obviously came off the back of a world champ car race yesterday in Road America, and well, safe to say he could have had a chance at maybe a podium yesterday at Road America, but of course strategy, well, I say strategy, more the case of a majority of them getting held up in the pits during that race kind of cost them a chance of a podium, and it allowed the Penske's of both the Penske of Julius Anderson to basically capitalise on that and take the victory yesterday. I do wonder if we are going to see Julius, of course, at all throughout this season, because he's obviously the reserve driver for Renault. So whether we'll see him or not, we'll have to wait and see. As Lopez now then looks like he's going to overtake an Alfa Romeo here then. And I think it's safe to say for Franco Lopez, Dennis, he's, despite a very strong start to the season, the last couple of races, he has been a little bit off, it's fair to say. I mean, he was way off the pace of Carl last time out at Mazzano.
Yeah, indeed. I think that's also strategy related a bit, but also car, as you've seen, was much quicker in race pace at all. But yeah, also the streak of either winning or retiring for Lopez is over.
Yes,
Yeah,
it was only a brief streak, but yeah, it is a bit of a streak. Of course, on the topic of Armagh car, this has been, we did mention this before the stream went on, this has been a bit of a bogey track for him in the past, and we wanted to see if he can actually get some better luck around here, because so far this season, despite the fact that he's currently leading the Drivers' Championship, he's still yet to get a victory in 2022, which is a little bit surprising.
yeah, indeed. But also that shows how consistent car is. He doesn't take the wins, but he takes enough points to be in the lead. Yeah, that's how it is. Remember Florian Walker in 2011, where he only got 2 wins this season, but scored podium after podium. Yeah, at the start so far, it's a bit the same. But yeah, let's see if Carr can win his first race here.
We'll be interested to see if that pays out. Of course, another driver who'll be also looking to try and win here, as mentioned earlier, is George Roque. Of course, was leading at Mazzano, in fact took pole position, but it just seemed that Evan Byrne just outsmarted him on strategy in the end, and still yet to record a victory as a Red Bull driver. Could this track that he's been known for having a very strong results in the past actually help him towards that? We shall obviously wait and see. Of course, he's not taking part in this practice session. As you can see, the Red Bull reserve driver, Robert Ionescu, is currently at the top of the timing screens. Of course, Ionescu has got very good history around here, because this is the track where he took his last top-class victory back in 2014, and I suspect that is the reason why he's running here today in the Red Bull. He has said to me that he is planning to run a few sessions in the Red Bull throughout this season, and well, basically doing what you were known for doing a little bit last season, Dennis, with Ferrari and Williams respectively.
Yeah, I was about to say not only last season but also 2019, but I think Rob and I are basically very similar. In that case, wanting to participate in as many practice sessions as possible, but yeah, of course, for him, this track, he has very good memories here.
Indeed, as we're now looking at the two Williams drivers, and we might as well talk about them whilst we're looking at Sontag and also Griffiths in the background, because it's safe to say this season has not really panned out the way Williams have been hoping this season. Undoubtedly have got the slowest car on the grid, and you do question, Dennis, has their switch to Lamborghini been one that they may end up regretting?
Of course, it's still early in the season, but so far, I think everyone expected a bit more from Williams this season after they switched from Mercedes, of course, to Lamborghini. But yeah, this season so far, we have seen I think at every track that they were even the slowest. But yeah, so far it's a bad start to the season. They desperately have to improve their car. Yeah, I think so far it's not looking that good for them.
Oh, definitely not. And so far this season, Williams are the only team who are still yet to score a point in 2022. All the other 10 teams have been able to score at least 1 point. Williams still the only one to get off the point scoring mark. As Sontag, speaking of Williams, is now coming into the pits. Here is Miklos Gau, and he's just making his way down towards the first corner. And it's a good job that we're on to Gau, of course, because let's not forget, Gau does in fact have a grid penalty for this race. You may remember, of course, last time out at Mazzano, he caused an accident with Chris Chatfield, and in turn, it did give him, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, a 10-place grid penalty. I will double check on that, but I do believe it's a 10-place grid penalty that he's got for this race for causing that crash with Chris Chatfield, where he made a mistake, of course, threw into the quadruple right-hander and rejoined dangerously into the path of Chris Chatfield. And, well, for Miklos Gau, despite the fact that the season has started quite well in Australia, it seems that the last few races he's just been a little bit off, it's safe to say, and it seems that Kupok has had the measure of him.
Yeah, I think Kupok so far is adapting to the car much better. He also, that's not consider Australia for Kupok, because we all know what happened there. But apart from that, for Kupok it's a good season so far. He's dominating, I will say his teammate, not that big, but it's much better so far. But of course, guys so far in this season had already 2 quite big crashes. The one without any fault of his own, but in the other was clearly his fault.
Yeah, indeed. Of course, the other big accident he had, other than the one we just mentioned about Mazzano, was, of course, the one in China, where he flipped over after contact with Joseph Willows. A little bit of a clumsy crash from Gal there, because, well, Willows did have the right to be at that part of the track. It was just, I think, Gal just wasn't paying attention to the inside, which caused him to flip. But, yeah, 2 big accidents for Gal, and he's becoming a little bit accident-prone this season, it's fair to say, for Miklos Gal. And he even mentioned, I think we might as well mention this, but he has hinted at possibly maybe retiring at the end of the season. There has been hints he could actually retire at the end of the season, but he's still not undecided about that one. But we shall wait and see, really. There have been some hints. Another driver, though, who we do know is retiring, of course, is Amelia Wilson. Now, we knew she was going to be retiring at the end of this season anyway, but news came out, of course, after the San Marino Grand Prix that she will be moving her retirement till after her home race, which is, of course, the United States Grand Prix at Austin, and that is, of course, round 17, which means that for the last 4 races, someone else will obviously have to take over the Alfa Romeo seat. And, well, obviously, she's obviously had to do it for reasons, personal reasons, of course. She is very busy in real life, and that's why she's decided to move it to after her home race. And it has left some speculation as to who could end up replacing her for the final 4 races of 2022. But of course, it is a little bit too early to say at the moment, because she made this announcement quite early on in the season, and I think we'll probably only get an answer for that, Dennis, until after the until later on in the season. Of course, obviously people are speculating it could be Gabriel Gomez, because of course of the fact that he's obviously the Alfa Romeo reserve driver, but he has been on record in the past saying that he's focused on World Champ Car, so whether he would actually accept it is another question. But again, Dennis, I think at this point it is a little bit too early to speculate.
Yeah, it's much too early. So far it's only round 6, and yeah, until that we have still a lot time to go. At least 3 months in real life. But yeah, anyway, it will be interesting if Gomez will accept the seat, but if he doesn't, then it will be interesting. But of course, it's a shame to see Emilia leaving, but of course it's for her personal best. So yeah, it's understandable.
Yes.
Yeah, that of course after Misano, of course Misano was an absolutely brilliant race for her, finishing, was it P6?
Was P6.
Yeah, so for her it was finally a kickstart to the season, with of course also getting driver of the day. But yeah, we will wish all the best to her. time after Lucy, but still a bit to go.
Yes, indeed, and hopefully she has a very good final. Well, we're on round 6 now, so it'll be the remaining 12 races of her career, really. So hopefully she has a very good end to her career, and it'll be interesting to see how many points she can accumulate before she ends up leaving the OC after the United States Grand Prix, but we shall see. But anyway, Rahul Patel, here he is, as he's just coming out of the corner. Very close to getting points last time out at the San Marino Grand Prix. Was involved in that big scrap towards the bottom end of the points. But yeah, so far, his teammate, Laura Chung, so far has scored points in every race so far. And that's despite the fact that it's very clear the Lamborghini has gone a little bit backwards this season.
Yeah, so far for Laura, it has been an absolutely amazing start to the season. With, as I said, scoring points in every single race. And yeah, I think she's even 7th in the championship.
Yep, she is.
That's absolutely amazing to the fact that the car this season's not a lot worse, but definitely worse than last season. Yeah, for Patel, he was close to get points, but yeah, I think there was a few factors. The bad strategy also was difficult to pass at Misano with that Lamborghini engine, which I think is not the best engine on the grid.
Definitely not, as we just saw a demonstration there as Galloway just went by on the Williams there going into the stadium section. And yeah, it's been a bit of a tricky season for the Lamborghini power teams, particularly Williams, who have still yet to score a point. But yeah, but overall, Chung has been doing the best that she can manage with that equipment. And Patel, it has been a very shaky start to the season for him. Yes, I did say it, so you can drink a shot if you want there. Unless you're under the age of 18, then don't drink. Or under the age of 21 if you're from America, of course. But anyway, as Perinen now then just going out of the Mercedes grandstand, and well, it's been as mentioned for Renault, despite a very good start to the season, reliability has seemingly been an Achilles tendon for them throughout this season. As mentioned, they had a double retirement last summer out in Misano, and they're looking, of course, to bounce back here at Hockenheim. Of course, Renault did win here last season with Evan Byrne, so they obviously do have some good memories of this racetrack. And another team that will want to forget what happened at Germany is, of course, McLaren. Obviously, they arrived at Misano with a brand new livery, getting rid of what somebody described as taxi patterns on the side of the car. But yeah, that was that. But for them, really, at Misano, a double retirement for them, and well. We know that the BMW engine is quite good down the straight, but reliability has been a thing that has really held McLaren back, and also as well the one-lap pace. And so far, McLaren find themselves down in 9th in the Constructors' Championship. They even fell behind Alfa Romeo in the last race, thanks to Wilson's 6th place, and of course Bence Valdinger getting 9th place as well at San Marino. But yeah, a poor start for McLaren this season.
Yeah, very poor indeed in comparison to last season, but of course, with the new engine, of course, they have to adapt to it. But, yeah, so far as you said, the reliability is really the Achilles heel. That they have to improve that immediately at the factory at BMW, because so far, it's not very good.
Indeed, and of course this is BMW's home race as well, so McLaren will be hoping to do a good job at BMW's home race. But of course, this track does have a grandstand that doesn't belong to BMW. It does actually have a Mercedes grandstand in this race, so for Mercedes, they'll be looking to do well at their home race if they can as well. As meanwhile, Ionescu doesn't improve and he stays where he is. Of course, I did notice he made a mistake on his lap, and also getting held up by the Alfa Romeo of Bence Valdinger didn't help, as we ride on board with the other Alfa Romeo of Amelia Wilson, currently holding up one of the Haas's at the moment. And we might as well talk about Haas, because we haven't talked about them yet. A disastrous weekend for them at San Marino. They didn't have the best. Their qualifying was absolutely horrendous, 16th and 18th on the grid, so kind of reminiscent reminiscent of pace they've had in the previous races. But they were looking like they were going to make a good comeback, particularly Bartsch's Kloss. But Kloss ended up having a throttle problem. I think midway into the race, and Michael Mocho spun off early on in the race and could only recover into 10th place. And a weekend to forget for Haas. And as a result, despite the comfortable gap they had to Ferrari going into San Marino, it's now been slashed to just 6 points.
Yeah, of course, 1 point is still better than no points, but yeah, you're absolutely right in that one. That qualifying was absolutely disastrous. I mean, I think before they even had both cars in the Q3, I think even more than one occasion. But that was a massive setback, but yes, the shame it was really for Klaus to see him retire with the throttle failure. As I think Federi was off the track there a bit.
Either that, or it was because Franco Lopez went by him into the first corner there. I'm going to presume it was the latter, really, because that corner has been known for having very weird overtakes, it's fair to say, mainly because they forced their rival outwards into that first corner, and the guy behind, or the driver behind, I should say, usually goes through that first corner. As Vaderi now then making his way towards the hairpin. We ride on board now with Evan Byrne, who I've only just noticed has actually gone to the top of the timing screens while we were talking about certain things there. He actually broke into the 1 minute 10, so 1 minute 10.875, currently a Red Bull 1-2 in this session. And given the power of the Honda engine in the back of that car, and given this track is known for being a power track, you would imagine Red Bull might actually be strong here as well, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. I think with the long straights and with those fast corners, I think the Red Bull should have the better pace than Mercedes, but of course in practice that's not that important, I would say. But of course I think Mercedes will turn it up in quali. It's looking good for Red Bull, but they have to watch out, of course.
Yep, indeed. You cannot never rule out Mercedes when it comes to qualifying. I mean, of course, one thing that Mercedes will want to forget about with the qualifying session is what happened with Franco Lopez during qualifying last week, where, of course, he was looking like he was going to snatch pole off of George Roque in the end, if it weren't for a mistake he made into the final corner, which saw him spun off there. And, that obviously in the end cost him a chance at pole position and gave it to George Roque as a result. But I do wonder, Dennis, had Lopez actually got that lap hooked up, could we have looked at a potentially different race to the one we got actually last week?
I'm not so sure about that, because in the race Red Bull looked superior to Mercedes. But of course it would have changed a bit, but I think Red Bull would still have won regardless.
Yeah, especially with the strategy that Byrne had during the race. So that's that, really. We have just over 19 minutes to go in this practice session. So this is what the leaderboard looks like currently. It's Byrne at the time. In fact, hold that thought, because Quark's got a problem. Quark has got a mechanical failure, and it's a puncture, and he's going to be pulling off to the side of the track. So more bad luck for Renault, it seems. And once again, we're seeing a Renault pull off to the side of the track, even if it's not mechanical related, more tyre failure on this occasion.
Yeah. Of course, I think, didn't one of the Renaults retire with a puncture at Misano as well? Or I'm not sure. Wait, I think, yeah. I just thought my screen would die.
My screen actually died briefly there as well. I don't know exactly what happened there, but I could still hear you. It was just a little bit of a weird glitch there on Discord. But yeah, that will mean the spare car ban will have to be implemented on Roman Quark there. So as soon as his car gets spawned back into the garage, he'll have his we'll obviously have to have the spare car ban implemented when it's actually in the garage now then. But I think, yes, you are correct there, Dennis. I think it was actually Quark that was the one that retired with a puncture last time out. So clearly once again the puncher that came at Mazzano clearly still haunting Quark here in this practice session.
Yeah, indeed. As we spoke about reliability earlier for them, but not really. As you said, wasn't it the car, but the tire. Maybe he was pushing the tires a little bit too much.
Yep, indeed, as Yuri is now implementing the spare car ban on Roman Quark's Renault, and so just bear with for the moment, guys. But whilst we're looking around, we might as well talk about Aston Martin. Joantis Martin's last time out at Mazzano looked very, very decent, it's fair to say, like some very good pace. And it was basically a case of what might have been for Martins, because of course when Kirishima De Rosa retired, thanks to a mechanical failure, just stopping short of the pit lane entrance, his tyre bounced back onto the track, and unfortunately, Martins was the one that ended up running into that tyre and losing the front wing. And well, it was unlucky, really, because I think we'll never know now what would have happened with Martins had he not got that damage.
Yeah, of course, it's happened from at the most unlucky places ever on the track. He even tried to make it back to the pits the first time around, but he sadly missed it, but then had to go full lap without a front wing, which cost so much time. Yeah, as I said,
Indeed.
what might have been for him, but I think he showed that Aston Martin has some pace at some occasions. It's definitely better than the Williams, that's for sure.
Yeah, which is a little bit unfortunate for Williams there. But it has been a good season for Martin, despite the fact that Aston Martin have definitely gone backwards this season, and we'll be looking to continue that impressive momentum for the remaining few races. As Bent Valdinga is about to start his next lap. Valdinga currently 15th at the moment, as he will now make his way towards turns 2 and 3 on the track very, very soon. And just looking at where the Hassers are, 11th and 17th at the moment, so not exactly great for those two so far in this session, as Valdinga makes his way down the back straight now then, before making his way towards the hairpin. Next topic we may talk about is Ferrari, of course. Ferrari actually looked very decent last time out at Mazzano. Galloway getting 5th place last time by. Probably wouldn't have got that if it weren't for the two Renaults having mechanical failures. But Ferrari did look pretty decent at Mazzano. And of course, as mentioned, Galloway getting 5th. Unfortunately for Chatfield, of course, he crashed out because of Gal taking him out, which obviously resulted in Gal getting that 10-place grid penalty. But a pretty good result for Ferrari, and considering that so far this season they've looked a little bit off compared to last season.
Yeah, that's true. Of course, last season, the start of the season was also not the best, and yeah, it was a shame for Chatfield to retire without any fault of his own. But yeah, Galloway made the best out of it. Was also lucky, as I said, with the Renaults retiring. But yeah, you have to take these results in. You have to be that. You have to have the tiny piece of luck in the races, and he got that.
Yep, indeed. Currently lies 8th now in the Drivers' Championship, does Jake Galloway. Got ahead of both Hassers of Kloss and Mocho. Meanwhile, Jake Galloway just making his way, speaking of which, out of the final turn. And it won't improve because I think he got held up. But and it looks like he's going to get held up by that Williams very soon in this session. And we might... Obviously, we'll talk about Alfa Romeo next. I mean, we did talk about Wilson a little bit earlier on when discussing about retiring after the United States Grand Prix, but we didn't really touch upon Alfa Romeo as a whole, really, because it wasn't only her that scored points, it was also Bent Valdinga as well. A pretty good weekend for Alfa Romeo, and as we touched on earlier when talking about McLaren, they've now leapfrogged ahead of them in the Constructors' Championship. So, a pretty good race for them at Mazzano, and one I think they'll take a lot of confidence out of.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it's always nice when both the cars score points. Yeah, with 10 points in the back from the last race, they definitely has a lot of confidence for this round. But yeah, of course, Baldinger, he's still in the phase where he's learning to he's learning the car, of course, as one of the two rookies. But yeah, so far it's quite good for him, and also now Wilson finally had that good race, as mentioned. Yeah, let's hope it will go similar for them this time around here.
Yep, and we'll obviously have to wait and see if they're able to keep that up here at Hockenheim, of course. Obviously, we know that the Ferrari engine, of course, does have some very good straight line speed. We saw it demonstrated during pre-season testing, but it just seems like they've seemed to have gone the opposite way to what they had last season. Because last season, of course, they probably had the best downforce package on the grid, really, but just didn't have the straight line speed. And it seems that this season, it's kind of gone the opposite direction. Ferrari have decent straight line speed, but clearly don't have the downforce package to help them out. And, well, obviously the engine in the back of the Alfa will probably try and help out Alfa Romeo, especially around here, because we mentioned about it earlier on, that this track is more of a power track than it is a downforce track, so that could be something worth noting about. But, yeah, that's pretty much that, really, as I think we've covered every driver now, from what I understand. Well, every team, I should say. So, yeah, that's pretty much that, really. And so we're just over 13 minutes ago. Burns still at the top of the timing sheets by 0.2 of a second ahead of Robert Ionescu. Videri has just improved to go into 20th position. And, well, it's safe to say that Videri still yet to score points this season, Dennis. And, well, it just seems... Well, obviously, he did actually finish in the top 10 last time out in China. But, as we know, he obviously got penalised for a collision he caused in the race. Which allowed his teammate Johannes Martins to pick up that final point instead. And, well, it seems that Videri, when it came to bad luck last season, when it came to points, arguably you could say he's having that this season, although I do think he has been outpaced a lot this season by Martins.
Yeah, firstly that, and also he also expected Aston Martin to be more competitive. It is, but the season is still long. Also, we so far only had 5 races. But so far, Martins is really outpacing Ferrari a lot. So it's on Ferrari to finally get his mojo back, and now finally to beat his teammate on a regular basis.
Indeed, as David Kupot's just making his way down the Parabolica there. Yes, that left-hander is known as the Parabolica. I think there are in total about 4 circuits that have got the name Parabolica as one of their corners. So, yeah, that's a bit of an odd fact there. As Kupot now then making his way towards the flat-out right-hander before he approaches the stadium section. And currently Kupot lying in 9th place in this practice session. Now, of course, you may have noticed that this stream has actually come on an hour later than usual. That is because Yuri has actually came home late today, which is why we've actually started this at 5 p.m. as opposed to what we usually start the practice session at, which is 4 p.m. So, yeah, that's why it's been on a little bit later on. And there's also probably some people wondering why F2 hasn't been on yet, because I did say after the World Champ Car race that F2 was meant to be on yesterday, but Flo actually had to postpone both qualifying and the race till Wednesday, specifically after the top class race here in Germany, and that's because he had something creep up on Monday and he's incredibly busy on Tuesday, so he's had to put both qualifying and the race on a Wednesday straight after the top class race, specifically at 7 p.m. as it's scheduled on the F2 graphic. So that's that really. So for anybody wondering why we haven't seen any Formula 2 action yet around here at Hockenheim, it is because it's actually taking place tomorrow, both qualifying and the race, because Flo is currently busy at the moment. So don't think that we've forgotten about it, because we haven't. So anyway, as Perinen now then getting stuck behind a couple of cars at the moment, one of them being a Haas who's stuck behind an Alfa Romeo, that Alfa Romeo being Amelia Wilson. That's Michael Mocho getting by into turn 2 there, as we now look at Joseph Willows in the McLaren, just making his way into turns 2 and 3 now then on the track. Looking back now at Jesus Perinen now then, as he'll just make his way down towards the hairpin. And so Perinen now then just making his way around that corner now then, as we look back at Willows, who's just making his way into the hairpin very soon. A lot of cars, in fact, now coming towards his hairpin. Perinen is actually coming into the pits of that. Perinen currently up in 5th place, and I might as well mention this about Renault, because we talked about their reliability, but one thing I also noticed as well with Renault is that their consistency seems to be a little bit up and down. They have one driver who does well in qualifying, and the other one who just seems to struggle a little bit. And, well, obviously, we touched about this in pre-season. Not only could reliability be an issue for Renault, but clearly consistency could be a thing that could be a question mark for them.
Yeah, indeed. This is spoken about also in races. I think the performances are a little bit different. Either one of them has the pace to fight for podiums or even wins, like Perrin did in China, and the other is just fighting the back end of the points or having that reliability issue. So yeah, in terms of consistency, is could be better for Renault.
Could be indeed, and obviously we'll have to wait and see if they can improve that consistency throughout the season. Patel, meanwhile, has improved to go up into 12th position. Currently, the Haas is struggling in this practice session at the moment, 13th and 18th. So we'll have to see if that continues into qualifying, of course, and whether or not they're going to be struggling again. Now, we are expecting, of course, rain towards the end of this session, but so far we haven't seen it arrive yet, and it might end up being the case that we don't end up with rain at all throughout this session. But yeah, it did say on the weather graphic we were expecting some rain in this session, but so far it hasn't arrived yet. And well, if that were to happen, as the two Williamses go side by side into the hairpin, then if that, of course, were to happen, then, of course, we'd have to... obviously, that would stop people from improving, of course. As well, hold on to that thought, because Wilson has actually gone wide there, just as I think that was Jake Gallo... sorry, no, that's Chris Chatfield. Overtook him into the first corner there. Willows, meanwhile, has improved, but remains in 11th. And I think that's actually him now coming up towards the back of Wilson right now. As you can see how much time Wilson lost from that mistake, as she's 2.6 seconds down in the first sector compared to Evan Byrne. We're just under 8 minutes to go as Patel now goes up into 9th position. This is what the leaderboard looks like. It's Byrne at the top with Ionescu in 2nd, Carr in 3rd, Galloway in 4th, followed by Perinen in 5th, Chatfield in 6th, Volker in 7th with Lopez in 8th, then Patel in 9th, Kupok in 10th, Quag in 11th with Willows in 12th, Mocho is in 13th with Gal in 14th, then it is De Rosa 15th, Valdinger in 16th, Martins in 17th, Kloss in 18th, Wilson in 19th with Videri in 20th, Griffiths 21st and Sontag in 22nd position. As both Willows and Wilson make their way through into the stadium section there. I wonder how long Wilson has been on them tyres for, because she seems to be struggling on them tyres at the moment. For anybody wondering about the tyres, we are using the medium tyres here at Hockenheim. Of course, the last 2 races we used the hard tyres, and of course with the new rule that came in at the beginning of this season, which states that if you have tyres that are used for back-to-back meetings, then it can't be used for a 3rd consecutive meeting, and that has been the case with the hard tyre for the past 2 races at San Marino and Azerbaijan. So it means that for this, so that meant it was not eligible to be used for Germany. So it meant it was either going to be the soft or the medium tyre, and it ended up being the medium tyre that got used for this race. Oddly enough, we haven't seen the soft tyre since the Australian Grand Prix. So it has been a bit of a while since we've seen the red soft tyre. I wonder if we'll get to see that maybe at the Spanish Grand Prix next week, or maybe in a future race. We shall wait and see, of course. As more improvements, both Martins and Griffiths improves. Griffiths now 2,000th behind Videri, so now it's only Sontag now that's the only driver to be over 2 seconds off of Evan Byrne at the moment. Speaking of Sontag, here he is, as he's actually making a mistake through into turn 2 there, and so having to correct the car there a little bit through into that corner, which in turn means he's 5/10 down on his personal best in the first sector. And Lopez currently 8th at the moment, and bear with.
Yes, said Lopez currently in 8, almost 1 second behind Evan Byrne. So yeah, I think Lopez is just focusing a bit on race pace in this session. But there also Car is 4/10 behind. It's now Kupok who proves to go to P8, just behind his companion Volker. As we also see Willows heading towards the Spitzkehre. Yeah, currently he's on a personal best. Yes, now we look at Jake Galloway in the Ferrari. He goes through the Sachskurve. Of course, we'll use the German pronunciations. Because he had German bias. So Galloway, I don't think he will improve. Yeah, he stays before as he goes through the lap. We have 5 minutes to go and still no sign of rain, which is quite interesting. So Willows is still up on his personal best. Can he improve his McLaren? Yes, where he go? He lost time. Oh. I think the last sector was a bit of the issue as someone's coming out of the pits. I think that's a Mercedes. So Perrin improves to go up into 4th, or actually stays there. No, he goes up into 4th. But now I think he goes compromised into the first corner as the Willows trying to overtake the Mercedes actually of, I think that's Armor car. Yeah, so currently in the pits we have Volker, Lopez, of course. Oh, it's car clearly. Sonntag does improve 3.5 seconds. Obviously goes off the track a bit. Yes. Currently Volker's in the pits. Also Lopez, Martins, Klaus, and Valerian. Also Quark, who of course had that puncture in the middle of the session. Yeah, I think either as our mod show improves, you go up into P6. Yeah, finally Haas found some good pace here. I wonder when Joe will return. So Waldinger across the line does improve. So he has the renowned AlphaTauri behind him.
I'm back, and
Yep.
oh, that was close there. Perfect timing for me to come back there. Q-Pot nearly running into the side there of Hazes Perinen going into turn 2 there. And looks like he's going to try and pull the overtake off. And should be an easy pass for the AlphaTauri because we know how powerful the Honda engine is in the back compared to the Renault engine. Obviously, that's something that's definitely helped AlphaTauri this season. In fact, it has done for the last couple of seasons. And through he goes as Miklos Gauss, speaking of AlphaTauri, goes into 14th. Willows is coming into the pits his lap. Looks like the rain is staying away in this practice session. Despite what we saw on the weather forecast a little bit earlier on, it does look like the rain is going to be staying away in this session, as we have just over 2.5 minutes to go now then in this practice session. As Willows now then making his way into the final couple of corners, and I think that will probably be his session done with, as we look now at his teammate Kirishima DeRosa, who's just crossing the line, and no improvement for him. Currently stays in 15th position in the BMW powered McLaren as he just comes out of turn number 1 there, as DeRosa makes his way through into the section of corners now. Then he will go. And so let's see what he's 7 thousandths down on his personal best in the first sector, as it looks like we're going to stay on board with the drivers for the remainder of this session. We ride on board with Robert Ionescu now then, as he just comes out of the final turn. Ionescu crosses the line, no improvement, stays in second place. There's Felix Sonntag, so far the only driver to be over 2 seconds off of Evan Byrne in this session, as they come around the final couple of corners now then, into the final corner, and onto the pit straight goes Felix Sonntag in the Williams as he comes down the pit straight. Across the line he goes, and no improvement, as Miklos Gal doesn't improve either, nor does Evan Byrne. Galloway session done with. He comes back into the pits as we now look at Franco Lopez in the Mercedes, just coming around the final couple of corners. He will go, making his way onto pit straight, and Lopez across the line he goes, and he stays in 10th. Not been the best of session for Lopez, but maybe not pushing at this stage. Patel, no improvement, stays where he is. Volker, the home favourite, crosses the line. No improvement, stays in 8th. Might do 2 more laps after this one. 1 more after this one, of course, that he's currently on, I should say. Car doesn't improve. DeRosa across the line, he goes in the McLaren, stays where he is. Kloss will get 1 more flying lap in before the session comes to a close, and so far it hasn't been the best of sessions for... well, I say that as I was away there. Mocho's actually got up to 6th. It's Kloss at the moment. He's currently struggling down in 18th. Valdinger doesn't improve. No one's Q-Plot. Looked like he got held up there by the Alfa Romeo. As we look back now at Robert Ionescu, just making his way through the final few turns, and now into the penultimate corner, and now into the final corner. As in fact, there's now dots on the track, as you can just see there.
Rain.
is the rain, but it's come a little bit too late, so I don't think we're going to get any improvements now. Ionescu doesn't improve. Videri and Chatfield will just get one lap in, I guess, to test these sort of conditions out, I guess, with slick tyres, as Videri just starting his lap now then. And so as he makes his way into the first corner there, Felix Sontag on an improvement, but I think the rain is going to stop him from doing that, and he does not improve. Byrne doesn't improve, as Lopez up on his personal best, but I've got a feeling that the rain that we've got in the final couple of corners is going to stop him from improving. Through into the final corner and onto the pit straight he goes as Lopez crosses the line, and yet no improvement as a result. Patel crosses the line with 8 seconds to spare. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 0, and the checkered flag is out. That's the end of the session. Volker was the last car to cross the line. Car doesn't improve. De Rosa now then across the line, obviously no improvement. 113.1. Kloss was up on his personal best, but of course the weather is going to stop him from improving there. Kloss across the line he goes and does a 112.7. Mocho just getting some mileage in the Haas there, and that will be him done with there then, as Q-Pot goes back in. Valdinger across the line, no improvement as expected, of course. Griffiths just getting some mileage in. Ionescu, one more lap before he hands the keys back to George Roke, of course, as now Ionescu comes out of the final turn. What's the time going to be regardless, though? Across the line goes the Romanian driver. It's a 111.9. Chris Chatfield, across the line he goes in at the Ferrari, and it's a 1 minute 12.6. Videri was up on his personal best, but of course this weather is going to stop him from doing that. Derry does not improve as a result, as Evan Byrne crosses the line. He's going to remain top of the session as a result of this. A 1 minute 13.6 for him. Willow's just getting some mileage in the McLaren as he just comes out of the final turn there. Lopez on his final lap now then comes around the final corner. Across the line goes the two-time world champion. He makes his way across the line, does a 1 minute 13.0. Wilson getting some mileage in the Alfa Romeo. Patel goes in. Volker, the last car to cross the line. What's the lap time going to be? As he remains in 8th in this session, 1 minute 13.4. And that's practice done with Byrne top, Ionescu second, and Carr in third position. But yeah, so far, advantage Red Bull at the moment, Dennis.
Yeah, indeed. I think Red Bull so far has shown some great pace. I think also, yeah, but still, Mercedes, I think, will pull something out of the bag in qualifying. But yeah, I think qualifying will be very interesting indeed.
Yep, indeed. Well, that's it for the practice session here at Hockenheim, of course. We're just going to take a brief pause for the moment, and then we'll have a fresh stream for qualifying. But in the meantime, I've been JW97, he's been Dennis Graff, and we'll see you in just a little bit for the qualifying session. See you in a bit.